Does anybody want to address council? Please sign the agenda sign-in list. If anybody want to address council before the meeting on agenda items? Nope. Nobody wants to talk to us? Okay, cool. Quick meeting.
Check. Oh, that's no good. Check.
Test.
Got it.
Check.
No,
Check.
I can't breathe, man.
Can't barely hear me.
I can breathe.
I gotta hold it right here. Check. Say. I know. I put it here and you can't hear me either. Check. I gotta be like him. Yeah, it's working. I gotta turn the sensitivity. It's a full one.
There you go.
Check. Check.
Eric.
Check.
Eric.
See, that's the trick.
Is it yours?
Check.
It's Eric's. No, I did last one. Eric, you pledge allegiance?
Sure.
Prayer? Here you
Sure.
go.
What is this?
Help our local businesses.
Mr. Mayor, it's 7 o'clock.
Okay. Where's my... Okay. I'd like to call the March 17th meeting of the Irmo Town Council to order. I want to remind you that these meetings are videotaped and broadcast over YouTube. When you come to the microphone, please speak clearly. Tell us who you are and where you're from. I'd like to start with the swearing in of our new councilman, Mr. Bill Danielson. Is there Mr. Danielson present? Oh, he's here. Citizen Danielson, congratulations. You come forward, please. We need, who's going to swear you in, and you have a Bible?
We'll do it right here. Yeah.
Right there, yeah, and we have a Bible. There's a Bible over there. Kelly, right there. Oh, I thought you knew how to do this. Ms. Peg Danielson, if you would swear your husband in, read the oath to him, and then we can put your right hand on the Bible.
Can you raise your right hand? Can you read it to him? There you go.
Yeah. Do you want me to hold it for you?
I do solemnly affirm that I am duly qualified, according to the Constitution of this state, to exercise the duties of the office to which I have been elected, and that I will, to the best of my ability, discharge the duties thereof, and preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of this state and of the United States. As council member of the town of Irmo, South Carolina, I
best of my ability and skill,
exercise the trust reposed in me,
exercise the trust reposed in me,
and I will use my best endeavors
and I will use my best endeavors
to preserve the peace
to preserve the peace
and carry into effect,
and carry into effect,
according to the law,
according to the law,
the purposes for which I have been elected.
the purposes for which I have been elected.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. Congratulations, Mr. Daniels. What? Oh. I'd like to have the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation read by Councilman Eric Singer.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, in this time where there's a virus spreading and there's a public health concern and emergency, I pray that you will allow us to have a quick meeting tonight, guide our actions and our words in the best interest of the town. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Sickinger. You got that hooked up, Mr. Danielson? Okay. Reading of the minutes of February 18th, 2020. Everybody got a copy of the minutes in the electronic package? Are there any changes to the minutes? Any modifications? Hearing none. We have a motion to accept the minutes as written.
So moved.
Mrs. Sickinger made a motion.
I'll second that.
Mr. Bush seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Report of standing, Mr. Brown, administrative briefing. We all had a chance to read it. Mr. Brown, do you have any changes to the administrative briefing?
Yes, sir. I'd like to add a couple of things. With council's permission, I would like to implement the emergency operation.
Mr. Brown, I can't hear you. Could you turn your mic on? If it's not on.
I don't know why it don't work.
It's just quiet. It's got to get real close.
How's that? Is that better?
That's better.
All right. I need to implement the emergency operations plan for the town. This would restrict public access to the town hall and would also like to change our work week to 3 days a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, for less exposure. That's long enough to get the work done at town hall.
Is that for across the board or every other employee or?
That's correct.
Okay. Any comments, council?
Yeah. So that the virus can live on hard surfaces for an extended period of time. During that period of break, is someone going to come through with a Clorox wipe and wipe down all the surfaces?
We're doing that now.
Okay.
Mr. Klein and his people are taking care of the town park. They're wiping all the playground equipment out there down twice a week, and also the public buildings here, town hall, the town courthouse here, and the police department.
Great.
Okay. Any other comments? All right. Mr. Brown, does that require a vote or anything?
No, sir. It's within my purview.
All right. Thank you. All right. Moving on in the Newtown businesses, Mr. Sickinger, we have any Newtown businesses?
We do. So again, this is just the new businesses over the last month that have opened up in Irmo, and we want to recognize them and welcome them to the town. Fabulous Boutique, Travel Simplicit, Kid Asset Management, Krager Company, Guild Mortgage Company, Streeter Executive Protection, Studemeyer Law Firm, Earn to Learn, Springfoot Body Massage, Stars and Strikes, LA Dreams Hair Salon, Hair by Terry Gore, Kayla Fuller Studios, and Pisey Mole Nail and Spa. It's a pretty long list.
Very good.
Very good, thank you. Moving on, are there any amendments to the agenda?
Yeah, well, yes, I think we ought to add somewhere, maybe under new business, that in view of the flu crisis, the coronavirus, maybe we ought to cancel the first meeting in April. Or, as Mr. Bush said in one of his emails, maybe we ought to look at the Municipal Association alternatives to an open meeting. We don't have to do anything, but I think we should be cautious, especially since the guidelines are out not to have more than 10 people in a room or be with 10 people, and we got more than that. I just wanted us to discuss it. So if you want to add.
All right, under new business item,
That's not true.
what?
That's not. Governor McMaster put out again today 50 people.
I know McMaster did, but the White House said 10, so.
That's correct.
It's an abundance of caution, but it's something we ought to talk about.
I think if we're talking about public health, we need to follow our own best practices.
So you want to add that or not? Do y'all want to add?
I second, if there was a
She
motion.
made a motion.
I second the motion to add it to the agenda.
Okay. And this is item H, to cancel, on a new business, to cancel our April 1st meeting.
The first meeting in April, I don't know what.
Or,
Okay.
April 7th? Okay. All right.
Mr. Mayor, while we're on this, if we're going to talk about health issues, does council want to put out any kind of policy restrictions for large gatherings in the parks?
Yes?
Some municipalities already have.
Yeah.
Could we add that to the discussion under?
How about add that to the discussion
Yeah.
under H, to cancel the meeting and to restrict large gatherings in the park?
I second that.
Thank you.
Wait a minute, you need to make a motion to amend his,
I make a motion to amend H to include restrict a conversation and discussion around restricting gatherings in the park.
I second it.
all in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. All opposed? It's unanimous. To add the restriction to restrict large gatherings in the parks. Back to the original, add that whole section H to the agenda. All in favor of adding item H to the agenda, raise your right hand. All opposed? It's your right hand, Mr. Bush. There you go. Thank you.
Pretty sure it was right.
All right. Anything else? Communications. As you know, we've been in litigation with PSC and Blue Granite. I've asked the attorney, our town attorney, Mr. Moore, to give us a report. Mr. Moore, can you deliver that information to us, please?
I would be happy to, Mr. Mayor. I learned about the Blue Granite situation when you basically contacted me and told me what was going on. It became apparent that we had an awful lot of our citizens who were quite upset about the proposed Blue Granite increase in sewer rates. And the citizens were coming to the town, begging the town to stop the sewer rate increase. As you know, the sewer rates are not regulated by the town, and we are powerless to stop it. But at your instruction, you asked me to intercede on behalf of the town of Irmo with the Public Service Commission and to voice a strenuous opposition to the Blue Granite rate increase. The proposed rate increase simply for sewer is based on a per house basis of approximately an increase of approximately $40 per resident, which would mean that our residents and many people outside of Irmo, approximately 1,800 households, would have simply a sewer bill, not water, but sewer, of about $101 per month, which is, in my mind, an incredibly large number. Now, historically, we have received service from Carolina Water, which is now known as Blue Granite. It's the same company. We have had problems with Carolina Water, Blue Granite, for approximately 40 years. As long as I've been attorney for the town of Irmo, we've had problems with this company. We have basically been charged premium prices and have received bottom line service from Carolina Service as long as any of us have been in this town. We had hearings which lasted 3 years. 3 days. Not only did those hearings last 3 days, we spent an entire night at the town of Irmo hearing from our citizens and supporting them. And we also have had other work that we did in preparation for the hearing. I spent the large portion of an entire week getting ready for and participating in this particular hearing. I was incredibly encouraged by the testimony. I do think that the points that we made on behalf of the town have made a difference. If it is denied, if the rate increase is denied or reduced, it has been expressed to me by a number of people, it will be because of the points that were made by the town of Irmo at this hearing. A number of people have watched either on television or in person and expressed a hope and a belief that the Public Service Commission will be very, very stingy in giving this company an increase. I cannot guarantee that. I was distressed to learn that the Office of Regulatory Staff, over our objection, has recommended an increase in the sewer rates. I cannot control what the Office of Regulatory Staff does, but they are of the opinion that since the sewer treatment costs have risen, that Blue Granite should get a rate increase, but nowhere near the $40 a month that they're seeking. We learned a lot of things in the trial. We learned that Blue Granite is the same company as Carolina Water. They just changed their name. They chose the name Blue Granite because the State House of the state of South Carolina is made out of blue granite, which is somewhat ironic to me. They're basically using the stone from the state in order to, in effect, in my humble opinion, gouge the ratepayers of the state horribly. The new management, some good news. The new management seems to be seriously intent on doing better. They've got several people who are involved in the upper management of the Irmo and South Carolina area, and we have developed at least a working relationship with them. I believe the action this council took in enforcing the last major spill we had has gotten their attention. If you will notice, anytime we're having bigger rains predicted, we're having pump trucks stationed in Irmo to make sure that we don't have manholes blowing up like we did the last time. The new management does seem to want to cooperate with us, and that's a good thing. Historically, we've had high prices and low quality. Maintenance over the years has simply been neglected. We made them admit on the record that historically Carolina Water has neglected the maintenance of this system. The bad news is that because of the years of neglect of a system that is now approximately 50 years old, the system is in a horrible shape. We have roots, we have water infiltration, we have a system that is leaking like a sieve, we have stop-ups, backups, malfunctioning equipment, and a system that needs rehabbing from top to bottom. The projected cost of rehabbing this system is going to be very, very large. And it will take approximately 5 years for the rehabilitation to be done on the schedule they propose. They, working with us, have promised they will try to speed up that schedule in Irmo. I hope they do. We shall see. One of the things that bothers me about their rate increase is that historically, maintenance has been built into the rates they charge. So they've been paid to do maintenance that they acknowledge they haven't done. What's been done with the money? They took it. Mm-hmm. So now they come in and say they need a rate hike in part because they need to rehabilitate the system they should have been maintaining. Our position was if you had done with the money what you were supposed to, we wouldn't be here. But we are here. We also learned that Blue Granite is part of a conglomerate, which is a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate with locations all over the United States. It's a very, very large company. One of the things they want their money, their increase for, is that they are upfitting a new office space in Greenville, South Carolina. They apparently want the ratepayers to pay for that. The system is simply in very, very bad shape. They are paying attention right now. They have a plan. One of the things we learned recently, we knew this before going in, is that Blue Granite no longer treats sewage. This is very good for us because historically we have had a major problem with their curtained treatment plant on Irmo Drive, which has now been closed. Much of the stink, which we have historically fought over for 40 years, should now be gone because Blue Granite has now hooked on to the City of Columbia line, and the City of Columbia is going to be treating all of the effluent from the collection area now owned and controlled by Blue Granite. All Blue Granite will do is this. They'll collect it, they'll transport it through pumping lift stations, and they will bill and they will maintain. That's all they're going to do for $101 a month. Now, they are having to pay the City of Columbia to treat the effluent. And apparently, one of the reasons the rate hike is going to take place is that the City of Columbia is charging them a lot to hook onto their system and to treat the sewage. We have no control over what the City of Columbia charges Blue Granite. We simply have to pay whatever that basically turns out to be. One of the interesting things we learned is that part of the blame Blue Granite places on the rate increase is the state legislature. They say that because of the SC&G debacle and because of the actions taken by the legislature to try and regulate E&G, that now investors are worried about public utilities in South Carolina, and they basically changed their investment strategies, and the cost of money is more. So if you see Chip or Nathan or Ronnie or Dick, let them know that Blue Granite is blaming them in part for the rate increase. This argument is total nonsense, by the way. The legislature is not to blame for this. And we sort of made them admit that on the record during the trial, and some of you saw that. I think Kelly enjoyed that particular part of it. I was a TV star, by the way. Apparently this thing was on TV, broadcast all over the state. And apparently was watched by a lot of people. I had people contacting me from Rock Hill and God knows where, thanking me for what was said, or thanking y'all for letting me go. One of the interesting things about that we learned is there is a company known as Clearwater Solutions. Clearwater Solutions is actually the operator of the system. Now, the way the PSC is supposed to work is that the operator of the system is supposed to be subject to audit by the PSC so that we know their charges are reasonable. The Blue Granite has a monopoly, and because they have a monopoly, their prices are supposed to be regulated. And they're supposed to be the operator. Well, Blue Granite is no longer the operator. They have contracted with an unlicensed and unregulated operator, which is Blue Granite Solutions, to do the work. We don't know, and the PSC does not know. How did they arrive at the price that they pay Clearwater Solutions? How much are they paying them? The answer to that is a lot. What is it actually that Clearwater Solutions does, and how are those prices regulated? The answer is they're not. There is no auditing situation that we know of at all wherein someone can go by and determine that the charges being charged by Clearwater Solutions to Blue Granite, which are being passed on to our customers or our citizens, are reasonable. What appears to have happened is there appears to be artful drafting wherein Blue Granite has passed the buck of the responsibility onto a third-party, non-licensed contractor and skirted all of the checks and balances that are supposed to exist with the Public Service Commission. I hope I'm making sense. And y'all following me? Okay. Some of this stuff. It was a riveting 3 days, guys. I just want you to know I had a ball over there. It was, you've never heard such boring stuff in your life. We did try to put a little bit of life into the examinations. I don't think they like me very much. Again, the Office of Regulatory Staff, which is basically the people working for the PSC, has reviewed the request and has recommended there be an increase. I was incredibly impressed by the members of the PSC and the degree of intellect and knowledge and sincere concern that they demonstrated. They knew what was going on. They knew the record. They knew the history of Carolina Water Service, and they appeared to be listening to an awful lot of what was asked. One of the things that we inquired about was how come you pay the city of Columbia by the gallon and charge us by the house? The way this thing is set up now, they charge everybody the same. You can have a 6,000 square foot home with 12 children, or you can be a single grandmama living by yourself in a small Friarsgate house. You pay the exact same thing. Their position is that since they don't serve the water to everybody, they can't gauge the gallonage. And we asked the question, well, why don't you just ask the city of Columbia how much water they're using? And it was like, well, they won't tell us. And I said, well, have you ever asked? Well, no. Then how do you know they won't tell you? Well, that would be unwieldy. Unwieldy, yeah, it'd be unwieldy, all right, just as unwieldy as a widow lady with nobody except her in her house paying $101 a month to flush the toilet. Seems to me like it's not too much to ask that we determine gallonage and charge by the gallon. If you're paying by the gallon, charge us by the gallon. So I know I've taken way too much time tonight. The long and short of it is, I think we got to the heart of where they live, what they're doing, and how they're doing it. I don't think we embarrassed anybody by our representation at the PSC. I do think that if the rate increase is modest, which I think it will be, that Rock Hill and people outside the town and other places as well will owe the town of Irmo a debt of gratitude, because it basically is the efforts made by the town of Irmo which will keep the rate hike low if in fact it's low. If we're successful, which I think we may be at least to an extent, the reason for that success will be because y'all basically stepped in protecting the citizens. And if you think about it, they've got 1,800 customers in our service area. Now, not all of those are in the town of Irmo, but they're in the Irmo, St. Andrews area. Multiply that by $40 a month, and you can see how much money is at stake for the citizens who are served by Blue Granite Sewer. How much does that turn out to be, Kelly?
A lot.
A lot. I think it's about $70,000 a month, isn't it? $72,000 a month times 12 months. You're talking about $800 and some odd thousand dollars a year, or $900,000 a year that we're arguing about on an annualized basis forever. So I think the fight we fought was well worth it. I think that they still have the thing somewhere on the archives of the PSC on the television. If you get bored with the staying home with the coronavirus, you can turn on and watch me play with these guys. I did have fun. I will acknowledge that. But any questions?
So we don't know the answer. We don't know the final decision yet until April sometime?
Barry, I can't tell you when they will actually rule. They could rule in April. They could rule in December. Your guess is as good as mine. I do think this. We gave them an awful lot to think about. And they are interested in thinking about it. I don't think they're going to rubber stamp anybody. I could be wrong. We could be looking at $100 a month, and if we are, we are. But we've tried to fight it.
Well, thank you, sir.
My pleasure.
Any questions?
I just wanted to thank you. You represented the town well. I did have an opportunity to watch a lot of that, and as boring as it was, you actually put some life into it. But you asked hard questions that they couldn't answer.
Thank you, Kelly.
I got one question.
Yeah, man.
To make it simple,
Yep.
we've got Clearwater, we've got Blue Granite, then we have Clearwater, then we have the City of Columbia. So by the time it gets to our constituents, it's fourfold.
You got it.
I mean, that's the bottom line. We're looking at 4 times the production, the actual cost of what's going on.
Well, you got Clearwater, Blue Granite, and City of Columbia.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then whatever Blue Granite is approved, that's the 4th part. That's my point. I mean,
The PSC, yeah.
and PSC, do they have to take the recommendation, or could they go against the recommendation of the regulatory staff?
They can go against the regulation, the recommendation of their own regulatory staff. It is, Kelly, I think you knows more about PSC than I do. I really believe that. But I think it's very rare for them to go against the recommendations of regulatory staff. But these people are very keenly aware of the serious service problems these people have given the community for years and years and years. They have given them, think about it now, in the last, I believe it's last 3 years, they've given them 2 rate increases. Or what is it? Is that right? 3 years, 2 rate. They've had 2 rate increases just recently. And I'll guarantee you, the moment this ruling is issued, they're going to be back going again.
My last comment, I knocked on a lot of doors over the last 6 weeks. And one of the 2 things I heard the most was this blue granite and the complete disdain our citizens have for this, and of course, security and policing efforts.
Sure.
And most, how very good the policing efforts are, but you know, there are some people that just not going to make happy. So it's still a big deal, and I don't know what else we can do. It doesn't appear like we can do much, but we've got to continue this fight no matter where it takes us.
I would very much like, when this thing first started, we had several town council meetings where large numbers of people were coming and begging the town council not to approve the price increase. Most people apparently thought it was within our purview to stop it. I don't know what we have to do in order to make sure that our citizens know this town council bellied up to the bar, spent 5 days basically fighting this, 5 full days fighting this thing from top to bottom. And if we are successful in stopping any of it, it's going to be the credit of this council, because what we threw into them is really what has made a difference according to what most people are saying to me. And, you know, the people need to know what you folks have done to protect them.
Jake, I'd like to add one more thing to that, and that is that the citizens of this town came out here and filled this entire room, and they put on for the news media, they got together, they filed petitions. So this town actually came out and really supported this effort as well.
Mm-hmm. No doubt about that.
We had a good person representing us, too.
I love you. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you, Jake, for that update, and I appreciate your service to the town. Proclamation for Ms. Cherish Taylor, but I don't see her here tonight, so I think we can forward that to her.
She's not here.
Well, can I make a motion that after maybe we could postpone it? Is that possible?
Yeah, certainly can do that.
If she's willing, I mean, give her a chance to, you know, I think right now the things are a little
Yeah, that's fine.
dicey.
Well, let me explain to you what's happening under receipt of communications. We have a young lady in Irmo Middle School named Cherish Taylor, who is 13 years old, and she wrote a children's book. Do you have a copy of the book here, by any chance?
Oh, our town clerk happens to have one with her. Don't tell me she's not good.
I'm not going to read the book to you, but let me. This young lady in Irmo Middle School wrote a book called Louis Park. It's a children's book about littering and the bad things that littering causes. She not only wrote the book, but she did the illustration in it. She went and competed against the entire state of South Carolina from right here in Irmo and won first place in the Palmetto Pride Book Writing Award. Now, the good part about this is that this lady is 13 years old, and this is her first endeavor of illustrating and writing a book, but she's also working on another book about slavery. And this is a chapter book. And so I thought it was appropriate, and the council thought it was appropriate to give Cherish, to show us how proud we are of her, making a proclamation of this is Cherish Taylor Day. But with all the stuff going on with the coronavirus and COVID-19, as you know, we have a sparse attendance tonight in our council meeting. We're going to postpone this until another time we know we can get her here and formally present that to her. But these books are not only available in all of the elementary schools in Irmo, but every elementary school in the state of South Carolina will have a copy of this book. In fact, every student at Irmo Middle School and Irmo Elementary got a copy of this book. So I was just so impressed. I could hardly read until I got out of high school. But for somebody to pen a book and illustrate it, it just made me so happy, and I wanted to show her how much we appreciated and respected her. So we're gonna postpone that to another time when we know we can get her here and her family. But I do have some more receipt of communication. As you know, we're under a very trying time now with the COVID-19 virus. And Governor McMaster has put down some executive orders which directly affect our businesses in the town of Irmo. You have in front of you is a proposal from a bank do you have a copy of that?
My apologies.
I know nobody's on.
Bob, I sent it to you in the email. First of all, Governor McMaster, we don't know who's got this virus, how it's being transmitted. We know it's being transmitted from contact. We don't know how many people in this room may have contact with somebody that had this virus. But we're locking down the state. And unfortunately, that means that we're pulling the rug from underneath all of our restaurants and businesses to the point where it's going to affect their bottom line. And as we just got through with our budget meeting, we looked at the revenues that we got coming in. And as you know, Irmo is built on not having a millage rate. We have a franchise fee, our service fee, our local option sales tax, and our business license. So when the business license revenues are down, our revenue is going to be down. So I want to, and I know the governor is working with the president. I have a letter from the governor where he's asked and actually requested federal assistance from the U.S. Small Business Administration to give disaster assistance to all of our loans, disaster assistance loans to all of our businesses in the state of South Carolina. But you know how that works with the federal government. By the time they go through Congress, by the time it gets out the House and gets to the Senate, by the time it gets to the Senate, gets to the president's desk, if it's not fast-tracked, it may never get down here in time for these businesses that we're gonna just pull the rug from underneath of time. We may not get to them in time to help us. I want us to propose, and I got in front of us a proposal from a local bank who wants to set up a local loss revenue revolving fund program. And that's what you see in front of y'all. We're not taking any votes on it tonight. It was just a presentation I want to let y'all, make y'all aware of. We can look through it, dot our I's, cross our T's, see if we can get it, but it's going to cost us putting some money up as far as a savings account, and the bank will monitor or administer loaning $50,000 at a clip to these small businesses that are going to be dramatically affected by lost revenue and the fact that they have to, by mandate of the governor, close the doors and not do business. And I'm not talking just one segment of our business population, I'm talking across the board until we can get a handle on this COVID-19 virus. Again, I know I'm just presenting this to y'all tonight. Without any objection, I'd like to put that on the next agenda to talk about this, setting this up and getting this in motion. But I got y'all written documentation to look at it, and we can talk about it. Are there any questions?
No, I think it's wonderful.
If we're canceling.
I'm sorry.
If we are canceling the next meeting,
Well,
probably need to move quicker on this.
On this?
Wait a month, if we're gonna do it. Not
well, we
tonight,
haven't
obviously.
canceled the next meeting yet, but we might have to. Okay.
We need to move quick.
On this relief? Okay.
if we're going to do it.
I understand. Any questions? Bob, I sent you an email about this, so you have it in your email.
I'll get it, yes, sir. And just for reference, under the emergency operations plan, you guys can call a meeting with just 24 hours notice.
Oh, okay.
You know, any kind of emergency.
To implement something like this?
Yeah.
Got it. Is there any other receipt of communications? Seeing none? All right, let's get to the meeting then. Thank you. Presentation by citizens. This is your time, citizens, that you can come up and talk about anything you want on the agenda, anything that we've added to the agenda tonight, anything on this agenda and agenda items only. This is your time to let us know your feelings about the different things we're going to discuss and vote on tonight. If you have any comments for or against, we're here to hear from you. We're not here to debate you. It's not a debate, and we ask you to be respectful, to address the council as council members, address the mayor as mayor, and not make personal attacks at all. You'll have 3 minutes to present whatever you'd like to talk about. Is there anybody that would like to address council? Seeing none, we'll move on. Third and final reading of ordinance 2005. That's to annex in a single-family residential property on Irmo Drive. Is there a motion for third and final reading?
I make that motion.
Mr. Kelly made that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Sickinger made a second. All in favor? Raise your right hand. All opposed? It's unanimous. Mr. Kelly, your right hand. There you go. Second reading of ordinance 2007 to rezone Broad River Road, 7425 Broad River Road, from general commercial to single-family residential. Is there a motion for second reading?
I so move.
Mr. Kelly made a motion for second reading. Is there a second? I'll second it.
Hadn't this been handled?
Yes.
It has, and
Okay.
I
But we
think the
have to-
zoning, the board has recommended not to change the zoning, so,
Right.
I agree with-
Planning Commission.
yeah.
I agree with the planning commission.
Yeah, I do too. I got no written in my notes.
I think it's the zoning.
Okay. Or any more discussion? All in favor of second reading, raise your right hand. Right hand? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm not in favor.
I'm sorry. All in favor of second reading, raise your right hand. All opposed, raise your right hand. Sorry. Thank you.
My left hand.
Thank you. I apologize. It was unanimous against. Sorry about that. Under new business, first reading of ordinance 2006, that is to have term limits for elected officials. Mr. Sickinger, you put that on the agenda. Is there a motion for first reading?
Yeah, I'll move.
Mr. Sickinger made a motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Kelly seconded. Mr. Sickinger.
Yeah, I think we need to amend on second reading, if it passes, to add
The
something.
first reading.
Right. If it passes this reading,
Oh, okay.
we would need to add an amendment, something along the lines of, and I'll submit that language, but around if there are no other candidates who have filed by X number of days before the last day of filing, that they may seek an additional term. In other words, if everyone's happy and no one else wants to run, let that person run a second term. Similar to what we did for the boards and commissions, where if there is no other qualified candidate, that they can serve an additional term.
That has happened.
Right?
Yeah. Thank you, Eric.
Mr. Bush.
I agree with what he's saying, and I don't know, for an amendment-wise, do I need to make a motion?
I don't have the specific language, so
You're not going to modify it now? All right.
Yeah,
So we'll
I'm gonna
modify it on the
I'm gonna
third.
submit that modification if this passes for the second.
Or second reading. Okay.
Okay, anybody else? Nobody else? Well, I like to comment on it, and I don't think it's a great idea to make modifications like that as far as the council is concerned, because what you're doing is you're pulling the rug from underneath our 13,000 residents, which made a decision 2 weeks ago or a week ago to elect Mr. Danielson on this council by 5 votes. Okay? I don't mean it's not a bad thing. I'm just saying we had 600 people came out and exercised their
In the
right
rain.
to vote in the rain.
That's right.
And for you to say that, well, we have an artificial end of term because somebody served 2 terms on council, I think that's what we elected these people in the town they elected us to do. They decided if they want people to represent them. Now, more importantly, when you talk about term limits, you're sitting in a chair where the councilman before you had 1 term because the citizens decided that they weren't happy with their performance. And we allowed the citizens to make that decision. Now, and Mrs. Condon pointed out, we had a situation where both of us are running for reelection and nobody else signed up. Nobody else signed up, so we canceled the election. So does that mean that we were doing such a great job? Or does that mean that people were just happy with the way we were governing? Or does that mean that because of an artificial end of term limit, we would have had no other leadership in town?
With that, sorry.
I'm just saying, that's fine. I'm just saying, these are the things that you have to consider. And again, I don't want you to take the rug from underneath 13,000 citizens when they made a decision last November and last March to put the people that they wanted representing them in these chairs. And I can guarantee you, we're going to have more people in the future, I'm sure, wanting to challenge us if we're not doing a good job. And I welcome that. I mean, I'm not trying to be mayor for life. I'm not trying to be councilman for life. But I know that I have a desire to serve. And as long as I'm able to do that, as long as I'm able to afford to do that, I want to be able to do that. And let the citizens decide when they don't want me to serve anymore or they want anybody on this board to serve anymore. But that's my 2 cents.
I do have a comment now. I mentioned 2 things while I was campaigning and knocking on doors. I didn't mention the third thing because it wasn't a key at that point, but it's a key at this point. And for what it's worth, the disenfranchisement of this body was the third thing I heard all the time. I mean, the public had given up. A lot of the public had given up. A lot of our citizens had I disengaged years ago. I don't know what that's worth, but I want to share it with everybody that came up many, many times. Now, is that because we voted people out, we voted people in? Is that good or bad for this issue? I don't really know, but I know it's people disengaged, and a lot of them told me they're disengaged. So.
Is it my turn?
Yes, sir.
Okay, if you're going to change what you're going to change, I would also, like in the case of Mr. Danielson, part of his term would count, because this is a brief period, really, as a whole term. I wouldn't count.
It's in there as partial term wording.
I'm sorry, say again.
There is partial term wording in there.
Huh?
There is partial term wording in there.
Yeah, but that's what I think it ought not count as a full term.
Right. I agree.
Doesn't it say that will be applied as a full term? Never mind. Okay.
I understand what your question is.
Okay.
But, Mayor, so to your point, I completely respect that opinion, and I think there's a lot of merit to it. At the same time, I think that at the local level is where you have the ability to move faster and make changes that will never happen at the national level. And I know that term limits is something that is relatively popular among the people generally. And, I think after 3 terms, I think you've served your, that's a long time, right? That's 12 years. And I think if after 12 years, no one else still wants to step up, awesome. Then cancel the election, you get your seat back. But the reality is that I think the same reasoning to put a term limit on committees and boards applies to the council generally as well. But I'll accept however the council votes.
Mr. Bush,
I'm on the fence.
on the fence, okay.
This is first reading, right?
Yes, serious. Well, and again, Mr. Signature, I appreciate your position, but no, the term limits on council is different than the term limits on our boards and commission. We make that decision up here on the boards and commission. The citizens make the decision out there on this council. And if you want to pull the rug from underneath them making that decision, then that may mean that we may be only a one-term council, because we're taking that responsibility away from the electors who got out in the rain and got wet and voted Mr. Danielson in by 5 votes. You could have had, it could have been 1,000 votes. I don't know.
Put up with this. A win's a win, Mayor.
Anyway, I'm done.
Yeah.
Any more comments? Okay, so for first reading approval on that ordinance 2006, we show by the raising your right hand if you approve it. All opposed? 4-1.
We'll decide on next reading, Barry.
That's fine. Next reading, approval to submit a public assistance grant to replace the town's 800 megahertz radios, the amount of $272,700. A 90-10 matching grant. Is there approval of is this a motion for approval?
So moved.
I second.
Second, Ms. Condon made a motion, Mr. Bush seconded. Any discussion?
We have to stay up to date, and our police especially have to have means to communicate. I realize I've been sitting up here a long time, but there have been 2 instances that I know of that one of our policemen were in dangerous situations and had to call for help, like a 911, to all officers in the area. And I just think it's of the utmost importance, and I'm all for it. I know it's a lot of money, but that's what they cost.
Okay. Any other comments?
I defer to the grant writers. I think this is a great opportunity. We have a great staff that writes great grants, and that money's a good percentage of it. 90% of it's coming from elsewhere.
It's a federal grant.
Yeah. So, and to your point, we do have an older communication system in Irmo, and it makes it difficult to communicate with other counties. And
Yeah, that's correct. Years ago, we received a grant from Homeland Security to purchase the 800 megahertz radios, and that was around 2003 to 2005 is when we started deploying those. That technology is starting to become obsolete. We've been notified by Motorola that they're rebanding that 800 megahertz system, so those older radios won't be able to take the new banding that they'll be converting to by 2025. So we've got 47 roughly police radios total. That's a combination of portable radios on their hips and the in-car radios. And so what we'd want to do is replace those and also add encryption to it. So that's a trend with law enforcement in the Midlands, that everything's going encrypted. So we would need to keep up with that capability. The radios roughly cost $4,800 a piece. Encryption adds about another $900 to $1,000 to it. So these things get pretty expensive, but as you have just heard, these radios have lasted us quite a long time, so we hope to get that kind of life out of this project as well.
Will this stifle communication to police band radios that people have in their homes?
The encryption part would do just that, encrypt the radio traffic.
Okay, good.
Any more?
I'm in favor.
Okay.
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
These radios, when they're encrypted, when you have these modern updates, will they respond in emergency situations? Can you hear them from within warehouses, deep into warehouses that don't have?
So the encryption doesn't really mess with that aspect of it. A lot of the fire code now requires, like Walmarts and big stores put repeater systems inside of there so that the radios work inside those buildings.
Most of those people don't even know that at this point.
Yeah. But the fire code actually mandates some of that so firefighters can talk.
Right.
When
That's what I'm asking, that we will have the same ability when you have these,
correct.
to make sure. Okay.
Yeah, and currently the radio system that we have has that capability. The issue is the rebanding within the next 5 years that we need to prepare for. So at some point, we need to replace all 47 radios. This grant would cover 90% of it. There's not a guarantee that we'll receive the grant or the entire grant. Last year, the state got $3.8 million in this grant and distributed amongst the whole state. We're asking for $272,000, so it's not a high probability we'll receive the full $272. But even if we receive a fourth of that, we can keep applying each year till we build the project out.
Good. Thank you, Captain.
Yes, ma'am.
Any more questions? Seeing none, all in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? It's unanimous. Approval of purchase of F-250 pickup truck for Public Works under State Contract 44.
Okay.
Is there a motion for approval to purchase a F-250 pickup truck?
So moved.
Mr. Sickinger made a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Mr. Bush seconded. Any discussion?
This is in the current budget, correct?
Correct. Any other comments?
Is it four-wheel drive? Yes. All right.
Is it also two-wheel drive? All right.
It's not electric either, so it's not that new Tesla model either. So, yeah. Are any other questions? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? It's unanimous. Approval to close a portion approximately 170 feet.
Point of order.
Huh?
Point of order.
I'm
You
sorry.
skipped D.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sir, I'm sorry, gotcha. Approve this, and then this one, okay. Sorry about that, thank you. Approval to amend the solid waste contract with Tyler Sanitation to go and lock in the current price for an additional 2-year period and pick up 40 bulk items per month at no charge to the town if the town extends the contract for the current pricing. But that's kind of misleading. We're still going to charge the citizens, right?
Not for the first 40 items. That was what council had talked about a couple council meetings ago, trying to do something for the citizens because we were paying, upward of $25,000 to $30,000 a year for the bulk item pickup.
Okay, so, all right.
So
Well,
Tyler is willing to pick up 40.
Let me make it. All right, let me make a motion. Anybody make a motion?
Yeah, so moved.
Second.
All right. you have any comments?
Yeah, so at what point does the contract currently end?
Let me dig that up. That is 2026.
So this would be extending our current rates out to 2028?
Be extending the contract to 2028, but it's only going to extend the fee to 2022 to keep the fee that we have now, because the contract has built-in increases per year
Okay.
based on gas or
Right.
any other things that might come up.
Do we have a termination for convenience clause?
We do.
Mr. Bush?
The only concern I would have is, Bob, on average, how many pickups do we sustain now a month?
I have Mr. Reed, the president of Tyler. If you'd like to ask him, we'll have him come up here and answer your questions.
Sure.
Thank you for the opportunity to come. We were averaging probably 50 a month up till, I'd say, a year ago. And then it just really, I think that there was some, I don't know if it was some marketing or some cleanup stuff, and it went up to probably close to 80. I think at one point we got over 100. Y'all capped it at 80. And what we, in talking with Bob, the plan was to do away with it completely. And I think there was a misconception that we were going to start charging $25. We've been charging $25 to the town the whole time. And so what I talked to Bob is we'll just pick up the first 40 of them for free. Anybody in addition to that we would charge, they would just pay us. It would be separate from the town. And then we put a clause in there to charge the landlords $50. And that actually is what generates probably over half of your bulk items pickup, is people moving out and then the landlord coming in and cleaning up the house. Mm-hmm. So we picked 40. That settles in at about $1,000 a month that we're just giving back to y'all. And it should cover the majority of the residents that are homeowners, residents, but not the rental. It was kind of the thought process. The contract, the way it's written now, was up for a CPI price increase, I think this June or July. And so what we're doing is kicking that back into 2022, keeping the price that you have now, which is already a 2-year-old price. So it gives you the opportunity to lock the price that you have today for a total term, what would amount to 4 years. And then CPI would start at the end of that, which CPI ranges anywhere from under 1% up to around 3% under current economic conditions.
I have a question.
Okay.
Could I ask him?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you being here, and it's, pardon my ignorance, but I'm kind of new if you hadn't heard that already by 5 votes. What constitutes a bulk pickup?
That's one thing that we want to address as part of making the change. Ideally, it'd be a couch, a chair. We really want to get away from doing refrigerators and freezers because they have Freon in them, and that requires special handling, and is something that it's probably wisest for all of us to stay away from. Let them take that to the county convenience sites where they can process them there. The other thing is on large electronics, some of those have mercury in them. And we don't want to get in a spot where we're handling hazardous waste. That's actually something that's excluded from the contract in other sections from us.
Well, then let me drill down more specifically.
Okay.
Went by a house last week, and there had to be 10 items piled at the end of the street. There was a mattress. There was a box spring at the end of the driveway. Mattress, box spring, sofa, couple of end tables, all piled out at the end, and their little green Herbie Kirby in front of it. Is that one bulk pickup?
It's not. I mean, we wouldn't charge for a single kitchen chair. If you put 4 kitchen chairs out there, we would see that as one. But if you got a table and a sofa and a mattress and a box springs, that'd be 4 items.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, so would we as a town charge the customer for the foot? So what I'm concerned with is if we have a month of 50 items and I'm not in the first 40.
Well, you would have 2 options. You would be able to either say, well, I want to be on the list for next month, or you could pay your $25 fee to Tyler. We're not going to be in the middle of this collection.
That's what I was
That way
wondering,
They confirm
so-
they've received the money before they go pick it up.
Yeah, but the couch stays out there for 2 months.
Well, no, that's where we get code enforcement to try to educate people that, you don't put it out until your scheduled pickup date.
I'm just concerned we might circle back around to the same problem we had before, which is you get spring cleaning and you got 60 items out there. I got to tell 40 of my constituents you don't have to pay, and then 20 people do.
Right.
Or you got to take that stinky couch back in the house for another 3 weeks till you get in the next month. That's the only concern I have is a logistical one.
Or you can haul it
We're
off
trying
on
to
your
work
own.
around through this, but just to get some free pickup as opposed to all the money we've been spending for the last 3 years, we're trying to find some kind of happy medium here.
Typically, when they call our office and say, hey, we want to get a bulk pickup, we let them know when the next pickup time is and tell them, don't put it out until the night before.
Okay.
So there's a schedule in place. They know that we're typically coming right now the first Monday of every month. So have it out that Saturday or Sunday night where it's not sitting out there for the 3 weeks.
Okay. And
We don't want to pick it up after it's been out the 3 weeks either.
No. And now you won't do like AT&T and we'll get some rollover bulk pickup. Like if we only use 20 in 1 month, we get 20. The question. I don't know. I mean,
I think we'll hit the 40.
You just
pretty much
want to
every
limit it
month.
40 a
But
month?
if you only get 30 out, I'm not going to split hairs over picking up an extra 10 the next month.
Okay.
Can I, excuse me. What'd you say about TVs? I have 2 old TVs in my house. What do I do with them?
You can take those to the county drop off. Those older electronics especially have mercury in them, and we can't just take those to a landfill. They have to be processed where that stuff is extracted before it's disposed of.
I see, okay.
And that requires handling by a third party. We don't do that internally.
One of the issues we have as Ermites is that we're split in the counties, and if you live in Lexington County, it's just a quick drive to the convenience station. If you live in Richland, you got to get a hotel overnight because you got to drive.
But we have pickups every fall.
Yeah, that's once a year, but
And Richland County has a recycling event at Irmo High School. We're going to have it again first Saturday in October. So we'll take the TVs at that point. Computers, anything electronic, we'll take it out for you. And there's a third point vendor there that takes it and recycles it properly and disposes of the stuff like mercury like he's talking about.
Good, thank you, Whit.
And if you need me to come over and pick your stuff up, I'll bring my truck and pick it up.
I'll give you $5.
All right. Any more comments? Mr. Reed, thank you very much for coming tonight, and I appreciate your service to the town. One thing, though, like Mr. Kelly Bush said, I have reservations about the 40 people get their free pickup, and then on the 41st person has to pay. I really, really believe that we should keep it even across the board and charge every time you go out to pick up these things, because people can make amends. People can get, like you said, people live in Lexington can go right down here to Bush River Road. The people in Richland County might have to take a little bit of a hike, but they have options. They can get a truck and take those big items off. What I don't want to see is, and what we're trying to avoid, is have people put out big items and leave them out there for 2 and 3 days because they're not the 40th person this month, or they're going to be the 41st person, so they're going to wait until next month. But they still put that, mattress out there, waiting for the next time around they'll be picked up for free. I want you to make sure you pick that stuff up.
Sure.
Mr. Mayor, I mean, if we're going to go that route, I mean, council had wanted to try to work with the residents to get some free pickup to get the bulk item, but Jim doesn't have any problem with charging everybody 100% charge for picking it up. I
wouldn't think he would.
Not what council originally wanted, so tell us now
What I want is I want the stuff not to be left out there.
All right.
If I drive through Fridays Gate right now, I can pick 4 or 5 houses that's got big stuff sitting out there.
I don't argue that. I'm just saying if council wants to not have the free pickup and charge everybody all the time, that's fine.
That's what we're
we can
trying
do
to
it that way.
solve, right? Is that not what we're trying to solve?
Yeah. But I think 40 is reasonable.
I think 40 is reasonable until we get that 41st person, and then he's going to be mad because he's going to get charged.
Just don't put the couch out till next month.
Okay, so if that happens, that's fine. But they're moving or
Well, then they're going to hit them with a code enforcement violation, so they can take a pic.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's communication from us
Right.
to them. So we need to communicate how it's going to work moving forward and how to plan ahead.
Cool.
The other thing is, we're a small family-owned company. So if after 6 months it's not working, just call me. I'll come back and we'll come up with a better plan.
Well, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Oh,
Yes,
sorry.
yes, sir. Mr. Reed and I were working on a pamphlet, to give people all these instructions on how we're doing it and going to put them out to everybody.
Got it.
We're still in the midst of putting it together.
Got it. All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
All in favor then of the approval to extend the contract out, raise your right hand. All opposed? It's unanimous. Approval to close a portion of approximately 170 feet of Child Street, Columbia Avenue to Fork Avenue. The record, this is a piece of property right behind us here, next to Miss Corley's house. You know Miss Corley in the corner right there?
Oh, yeah.
Right behind her house is a street that we've never opened up. It's been filled in. It's a street that's there, but we want to permanently close it. They want to basically deed it over to them, I think.
Is,
Remember now, under the law, in order to close a street, you have to do it not by resolution, but by statute. You need to pass an ordinance, you need to have first reading of an ordinance that will say the town of Irmo hereby declares this portion of roadway closed. Have a plat, property description, takes 3 readings, you have to have an ordinance to do it. Can't do it by resolution.
Okay.
There you go.
just a question. Oh,
One other thing, that stretch of, that you're talking about historically has been really controversial. So, that's the piece of roadway, I think, where we had Clark's and.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Remember that 10
Yeah.
years ago?
Yeah.
Just make positive, everybody there's happy, and when you close the road, make positive, you declare it to be the title to the property be vested in the town of Irmo or whoever you want to vest it in. I would recommend that you vest the property in our name since it's basically ours anyway.
So we can sell it at some other.
Sell it, give it away,
Okay.
anything you want to do with it, but, you gotta close it before you can do something with it.
All right.
Is this the road?
Point of order, no one moved yet.
What?
There was no motion for discussion.
I know, we're going to withdraw it here in a second.
Okay.
What's your point of order, sir? Your point of order is taken. Thank you very much.
Jake can just jump in. I have a question before we get any further. Is this where the police cars are parked?
No, it's,
Farther down? Oh, okay, okay. So we can, okay. Okay, got it. Okay, I make a motion. Oh,
well,
is this,
we can't, we just been informed by our attorney, we can't do a motion. We have to have a
We're basically approving
ordinance.
an
to
ordinance?
create an ordinance.
So will you take that back and put it as an ordinance?
You
then?
can still do a motion in
We
a
can-
second. I mean, this is just for approval. This isn't the ordinance, but I didn't want to go through, like I say, all the paper.
Oh, okay.
Surveying, all that stuff until I knew what council wanted to do.
I
So
make a
we're going to
motion.
approve you to go out and make an ordinance for the next meeting? Is that what? All right,
I make a motion.
Second.
All right.
Okay.
okay.
Right.
Mr. Bush made a motion, Mr. Kelly, I'm sorry. Mr. Kelly, Mr. Kelly made the motion, Mr. Sickinger seconded to approve the closing of the road so that we can come back at the next meeting and do an ordinance to formally do away with the road. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? It's unanimous. This,
I was stealing.
I'd like to take item F. I'd like to take the executive session, I'd like to suspend the rules and take the executive session out of order before we go to item F. And is that all right? You make a motion, please?
Make a motion that we go
Suspend
in,
the rules and
yeah,
go into executive session.
okay, that.
Is there a second? I'll second it. The reason for that is because I would like to get a one-on-one conversation with the contract with the company called CCI to take over our plan review and building permits. And instead of having it done by the Lexington County, I'd like to have that done in-house, and we can get revenue from that and not have to pay the, what is it, the planning, the COG, 13,000 is what it is. We pay them a year to do these things for us. We can save that money and make a little revenue on the side. But I'll explain to you in the contract in executive session. So is there a motion? There's a
I
motion.
make a motion, we
A second.
suspend the rules and go to executive session.
All in favor? Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Raise your right hand.
Aye.
All opposed? I will suspend the rules and go into executive session. We'll be right back. No votes will be taken. If you would, come back here with us and
We're gonna steal your chair. Just get enough in there, because you guys can come in a second.
I understand you've got a similar shingles. I had that years ago. Yeah, well, I think yours, from what I hear, yours is a lot worse than mine. But I remember how probably more dangerous than being in law enforcement right now.
For a number of reasons, yeah. Don't stand in the toilet paper aisle.
Yeah, exactly.
Clean up aisle 5.
We're back from executive session. No votes were taken. Is there a motion to resume? Mr. Kelly, Mr. Bush, Mr. Kelly Bush made a motion. Mr. Sickinger seconded. Okay. We are back picking up at item F under new business. Approval to look at this, investigate this from CCI. Is it representative from CCI here? Mr. Wayne Willis? Thank you. We had a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Bush, you had a couple of questions for Mr. Willis? Or
So not right now. I mean, I want to think through and read this. I didn't have this summary available, so.
oh, okay.
If you've
Mr.
got a,
Sickinger?
Yeah, I don't think I'm familiar enough to have great questions to CC&I. Yeah. But if
Mr. Dennison?
What's your bonding capability?
Sir?
Bonding?
Bonding. We have not searched for bonding.
Okay. How about
We haven't looked
insurance?
into that. Insurance, we have $1 million general liability, $1 million umbrella, $1 million on our auto. That's also in that pamphlet, sir.
Okay.
We just got it.
Yes, ma'am, I understand. I apologize.
Would we be able to?
do you have like a short presentation or anything?
I do not, sir. I just brought those for y'all to review.
Okay.
And may I say something about in the pamphlet? Can I ask a question? Would that be okay? Do y'all have in-house code enforcement? Or is that through the county?
We currently contract through the county.
You contract through the county? Okay. I wanted to ask that question. It was mentioned earlier.
what? No. Code enforcement.
Code enforcement.
Code
That's in-house,
enforcement,
sorry.
yes.
That's in-house.
Building code
Right.
or
Yes, ma'am, we do. We conduct building code. We also do code enforcement. But if you have in-house code enforcement, and I heard y'all speaking of that earlier,
We do.
then that is in that pamphlet. So if that's the case, you can remove that section if you do not need code enforcement. Some can't. Some jurisdictions doesn't have in-house. The county does it for them, and they also want that. So that's a part of another service that we provide. The percentage that we provide with the building and permit and applications and things, that helps offset costs for code enforcement, fire marshal services for some jurisdictions who do not have it. It's not to say it can't be offered. I'm just saying you can disregard that if you're not interested in code enforcement.
Any other comments or questions? So what we'll do then is we're gonna take your information, read it over, and we're gonna put it out to bid, and if you guys, does that understand it?
Yeah, and we invite you to respond, of course.
I mean, if you have any questions for them, I bet you can,
Do you have a local presence?
Say that again. I'm sorry. I apologize.
what did you ask?
Do you have a local presence?
We have 3 inspectors. One is on Two Knots Road, which is Donnie, who's president, who handed those. We have another that's in Sumter. We have TJ is in Lexington. So we have people that are close. We provide services throughout the state. So we have guys on the road on a daily basis. So providing services is not a problem. And of course, if we need to get up early to come and take care of services, that's what we do.
Okay,
And you're commercial as well as residential?
Yes, sir.
So you would handle all of the, from stamping to sealing to coming out and doing the actual inspections,
And issuing the CO, yes, sir.
during, right through the process, the whole
Yes, sir.
9 yards,
Correct, yes, sir.
no matter how many we have.
No matter how many you have. More the better.
Well, I'm very interested in reading your material, and I feel like we're a little where we kind of got the short straw here, because I'd love to ask you a lot more intelligent questions.
Yes, sir.
you wanna have them come back for,
I think it would be fair to them if we did have them come back, yes,
all right,
my opinion.
maybe next council meeting or next regular council meeting?
I think that would be fair.
Okay.
Or after the virus scare.
The next council,
Yeah.
whenever we do it. I think that would only be fair,
Yes, sir, no
my
problem.
opinion.
All right, Bob, can we put it on the next regular council meeting, not the, have the guys come back if we have any, we can read this over and have any questions? All right? So then, we're not gonna approve anything tonight then. We're gonna,
No, we
does
can't.
that, understand? Okay? Okay, all right. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you for coming out.
Moving along, appointments to ZBA. This is the appointments to the Zoning Board of Appeal. We have a number of applicants that have submitted their name, and we had in our packets their qualifications. One person doesn't qualify for that, Mr. George Glassmeyer. He's been on the ZBA, he's second term on that. Per our ordinance we just passed, so we can consider everybody else on there. Is there a motion to appoint somebody to the ZBA?
Yeah. Tie goes to the runner.
Already, you got it.
I nominate Marcia Clark.
Stole my thunder.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Do you want to join hands as we say it? No. And you know, one of the things that I want to say, if in favor of Ms. Clark is, and in fact, a number of the applications in here, these are not people who, while driving to work, filled out a 30-second application. These are qualified individuals. And in
Got it.
speaking,
Got it. You speaking?
yeah.
Yeah, got it.
All right.
Anybody else? You want to do them both at a time or one at a time?
One at a time, please.
All right.
Do we
No
need
problem.
a second? Or?
I'll second.
All right, there you go.
All right. All in favor of Marcia Clark, then raise your right hand. All opposed? 4-1. Got it, Renee? All right.
Okay, I have a question.
Yeah.
If Mr. Glassmeyer is the most qualified, why can't we consider him?
Because he served 2 terms in
I
borough
know, but
ordinance.
he's the only lawyer in this group.
That's not true.
There's another lawyer?
I believe there is, isn't there?
Not that I saw, maybe
Oh, maybe I was wrong. I'm sorry, it's a different one.
I think he should be considered just because he's a lawyer. And I think,
Well, I think that, well, okay, you want to nominate him?
yeah, I do, just because I think we're losing Milton Cooley, who would certainly have the experience and know-how.
Well, we have an ordinance that says that he can't, he
I know
has
we
to give
do.
people opportunity to get on.
But it also says that you got to, if you have a qualified candidate, I think.
We do have other qualified candidates. We got 5 other qualified
He's the
candidates.
only lawyer I see. That's the only reason I'm bringing this up.
Well, I don't think we just need a lawyer. I think we need people that are willing to serve.
But they got to go by the law.
You making, you
I
making
make a motion, yeah. I nominate Mr. Glassmeyer.
a second? Hearing none, I'd like to make a nomination of Miss Barbara Wallman. As Barbara, you know, ran for council and a very good candidate, very well versed in the workings of the town, and I think she'd make a great ZBA member. She applied for the position, and you know her qualifications already. Is there a second?
I'll second.
You second it? Okay. Any other questions, comments? All in favor of Barbara Wallman, raise your right hand. All opposed? Okay, passed 3-2. Thank you. Moving on to item H, to cancel the 4/7/20 council meeting and to restrict large gatherings in the parks while we are involved with this COVID-19 situation statewide. Is there a motion?
I make,
So moved, I'm sorry.
a second.
Okay, thank you.
Wait a minute. Kathy made a motion and Mr. Bush seconded. Okay. There's discussion, please.
In view of the president's recommendation today, and I don't care who likes him or who doesn't, because his recommendation is coming from Dr. Fauci, who I think we
Right.
all respect. He said gatherings of 10 or more. It's a guideline now, but it could be enforced later if this doesn't peak and the curve go down. Because of that, we haven't reached the peak, and we certainly have people here and in the park and elsewhere with immune disorders or lack of immunity. I certainly would not want to give this to my husband. If I were to contract it here, I mean, it probably wouldn't kill me, but it might him. And since I now know that I'm elderly, according to definitions, yeah, you too, I know, we're all elderly. Anyway, it might be an overabundance of caution, but I think we just ought to hold up April the 7th and stay home and watch and see what this does. We're going to have to meet once in April by law. But like Mr. Bush said, that's what got me on it, is when he sent out the email yesterday, about you better look at the municipal association. There are alternative ways to have a meeting without all of us breathing on each other.
And all of them.
Huh?
And all of them.
Yeah, them's I'm most worried about. I think we ought to cancel April 7th, discuss what we ought to do if it doesn't peak and start going down, and do the safest thing we can think of. But certainly April 7th, we ought to do away with.
Okay. Mr. Bush?
The only discussion I have, I think Bob's got this under control as far as, the town is using emergency operating procedures. And I think as far as large gatherings in the park, that's probably going to be fluid. It could be 10 today and 3 together tomorrow. But I mean, I think as far as the park goes, we may have to make an announcement about any official, if anybody's come in for a permit to hold, that would be where we would have to have a number.
So we're not canceling, you're not stopping people from going to the park.
No.
We're just saying we're not going to sanction big events.
The town can't sanction an event that, like, if somebody wanted to come and do an event on Sunday with 200 people, for example, and pay a fee, I think we would be liable.
But you can't stop them from doing it, though.
Well, we can.
The city,
An impromptu gathering, maybe? I'm not.
If we had to, we would lock the park.
I mean,
Yeah, but you lock the park, you're not going to put,
yeah, but the city
Electric
of
fence up.
Columbia did today.
Instead of us debating, I think Bob actually you have a plan, or, I mean, you're going to follow what the guidance is, right?
what's the plan, Bob?
Well, I mean, the plan here is, let people know, especially the events that are already scheduled for the park that we know are large, that we recommend that they don't have their events. I mean, we don't want to be seen as sponsoring an event with 400 people out in the park. That's my point. And then we can put out a policy, directed by council. We're recommending no more than groups of 10, based on President Trump's guidelines. Now, we can't enforce it unless we lock the park. And even then, we can't enforce it because
Right.
it's not a gated park. You can walk in there. But I mean, we need to be on record, that we are telling people they should not be gathering in large groups.
I mean,
I understand that, and I agree with you, and that's fine, but again, let me go back to what I'm thinking the misconnect is for me. We're saying until the April 7th meeting that we just canceled, or we're going to cancel. All right, so that means the next meeting we'll have is April 27th or whatever? 21st. So that means that it won't be until any event up until April 21st before we allow people to do events again, sanctioned by us.
why don't we just set a date? I mean, the White House said So in 2 weeks, administration can set out another guideline. But I think, I mean, we shouldn't even be having this meeting tonight.
That's true.
I mean, I don't know if you want to set a date. I mean, make it indefinite or until further notice. We don't know how long this is going to go on.
Right?
I'm sorry.
Might I suggest that you give the town administrator, under his emergency powers, the authority to make such regulations regarding the park as he deems appropriate in light of the health problems we have. Bob would be the appropriate person day in and day out to basically do that, and he has I think, the emergency power to do it under the statute we have, doesn't he? Yeah.
Right? That's not what we're looking to do. But
Well, I mean, but lock it up for gatherings, but the kids are still in the playground. I mean, close the park.
although if McMaster says it's a state of emergency and we got to shut it down, it is what it is. I mean, so
I don't understand why we're having this conversation.
Richland County parks are all open. Most of the parks in the state are open and closed to parks. Just directed, no gatherings larger than 50.
So what are you saying, George? I mean,
City of Columbia closed all their parks.
Richland County has.
I think for me, the purpose of putting this on the agenda was just to be able to direct Bob to go ahead and do what he needs to do with the, and I don't know if you need consent of council. In other words, if you make a decision based on statewide.
Well, we need council's input because you guys weren't going to be getting all the Facebook flowback.
I think we might be beyond Facebook blowback.
all right, well, here, we all agree to cancel April 7th meeting,
Do
right?
we agree?
I mean, yeah.
Is that,
Vote?
right. I'm asking,
Make a motion to cancel the April 7th.
well, but we got to separate the two because it looks
Yeah.
like we have to do, okay. So you made a motion to cancel April 7th meeting. All those in favor say aye.
In a second.
Second.
Well, seconded. I'm sorry.
Second.
Cassie seconded. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All right, unanimous. All those in favor to restrict large events in the park or to close the park for large events?
Well, that's if you want to make it 10 people, 50 people, close the park. I mean, you can't, people can walk at the park. There's no way to keep
Right.
people out of the park.
Why don't we just
So what are we gonna do then? I
tell
mean,
Bob to handle it?
how's Bob gonna handle it? How's he gonna tell 50 people not to go play in the playground?
So I think from an official perspective, in other words, we shouldn't be like permitting a group of 50 people to the park. If 50 people just want to show up there, that's their right. But the town can't sanction that. In other words, the town can't issue a permit to use the park for 50 people right now. And I think that's
my
what
point. For the people that have scheduled it, I want to make sure that we can tell them they can't have the event. We're against them having their event in there, where we know there's hundreds of people.
Right.
That's all. I mean, again, the park is public park. I don't propose closing it at all. The people need to have some place to go.
Yeah.
So we're not closing the park. We're just saying that you're not gonna allow
We're not going to permit. It's not going to be approved by the town.
up until April 27th or 21st,
March
Indefinitely.
31st.
It's
Or whatever.
administrative. Yeah.
until further notice.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. All those ready to vote? All those in favor
What are we voting on?
to give Bob the authority to,
I think he's already got it.
okay.
We'll just,
Yeah, but he wants
Well,
something from us.
he wants something from us to tell him that, I'm thinking. Is that not what you want, Bob?
Yes, y'all do need to
Okay.
vote. And do you want to go President Trump 10 or McMaster's 50?
Let's do McMaster. If he wants to lag behind the White House, that's up to him.
Okay.
I'll make the motion.
Kelly made the
I
motion.
move we give Bob the authority to
And
restrict parking.
Kathy, you
I'll
seconded?
second, yeah.
Kathy seconded?
But now the president didn't say, he said it was a guide.
Right.
Right.
McMaster said it was an
said
order.
No,
Right,
yeah.
okay, cool. Thank you. All right. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All, all those opposed? All right, thank you. That's it.
Did we have any, I'm just looking down, did we have anybody oppose it?
No.
No, no. We fully support Bob.
Okay, this is a point of a meeting where we have presentations from citizens. If there's anything that you want to talk about that we've talked about tonight, or anything you want to bring to our attention, whether it's on the agenda or not, you're more than welcome to come up here and tell us. It is not a debate. We're just here to hear information from you. Are there any persons wanting to address council? State your name.
Quickly, Mr. Mayor, we've canceled the Rain Barrel Workshop that was going to be held this Friday. Lexington County's still going to put this event on. We're going to come up with a date when all the virus scares are behind us. We still have 5 spots available, so you can contact Lexington County and still get signed up for the Rain Barrel Workshop. We'll come up with the future date. So I just wanted to let everybody know we're not going to have it this Friday, but we still are going to have the workshop in the near future. Thanks.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Whit.
Last thing, remember this, I gave you all this copy of this proposal. If y'all would take a look at that, and if we have to call a special meeting, I will. But I think we need to consider this for the help of our small businesses in town.
I agree.
I agree.
Is that it? Can I have a motion for adjournment?
So move.
I second it.
Mrs., wait a minute, point of order?
Just pre-voting.
Wait a minute, let me say what I gotta say. Ms. Condon made a motion, Mr. Bush seconded. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for